Hi everyone, thank you for checking out my channel and this video. I wanted to go over a topic, as you can see in the title and the thumbnail and all that I'm going to be talking about what if I had to do it again. And by it, I mean my weight loss and fitness journey. Well, although I don't like to call it a journey, I like to give it a more masculine sound to it. I would go with my fitness epic. I was inspired by my friend Jonathan Pritchett with Theology Geek Fitness. He put out a video several months ago basically talking about what he would do differently or what he think he did right whenever it came to his weight loss and his fitness. And we basically accomplished the same thing whenever it came to weight loss. He lost 75 pounds, I lost 75 pounds from my heaviest. And so the difference is we did it in very different ways. He did it in 6 months, being pretty by the book in your standard diet, just with true grit and determination and just hardcore discipline, he got it done. And for me, it took about 4 years, 4.5 years, I think. And there was a lot of ups and downs and just craziness going on. So I got there, and that's all that really matters. So I wanted to basically copy his idea and go over, if I had to do it all over again, how would I do it? Or at least what I did right, what I did wrong, and kind of learning from that. So real quickly, my story is that, at 6'3", I was about 27 years old. I reached my heaviest weight, which was 260 pounds. And then towards the end of 2017, that's whenever I was able to start losing weight. I lost about 25 pounds in the first 3.5, 4 months, something like that. And then 50 pounds within the first year. And then the last 25 pounds was done over 3 years because I had ups, I had downs, I came close, then I gained back, and, just a lot of stuff going on in life. But I did eventually get there by the end of 2021. So in the 3 or so years since I hit that weight, I was doing mostly just maintenance, but recently I've been trying to put on some muscle, really, get the physique really going rather than just, I got to my weight, now I'm happy. It's like, no, let's take it to the next step, right? So before I get into what I did right, what I did wrong, I just want to emphasize, because I've said this in another video on my channel, whenever I talked about my advice, going into the new year, you can look it up, on weight loss. I'm not going to argue about it here. Essentially, I'm just going to say it, calories in versus calories out. That's where your weight loss is. If you want to lose weight, you have to be in a calorie deficit. You have to be consuming fewer calories than you are putting out. If you're gaining weight, it is because you're taking in more calories than you are putting out. That's the truth of the matter. That's what weight loss boils down to. It can get more complicated whenever you get into discussions of calories in versus calories out, the specifics of that, but at a base level, if you are losing weight, it's because you're in a calorie deficit, period, right? And this isn't a point I want to argue because I flesh it out a lot more in a different video, but it will be pertinent to what I'm going over today. I just don't want to get into it again, just putting it out there. Calories in versus calories out, that's where weight loss is at. So having said that, what did I do right? The first thing I did right is I found a diet that worked for me. Now remember, calories in, calories out. So whenever I say it worked for me, I don't mean it magically worked for me because my body just needs this type of diet in order to lose weight. No, it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing. Because the fact of the matter is, the biggest indicator of those who lose weight and keep it off is adherence to the diet, not the diet itself. So when you are trying to lose weight, the most important component is to find a diet that puts you in that calorie deficit, but you can stick to it, right? You can adhere to it in the long term, if not, for years to come or the rest of your life. It's a lifestyle change, right? I found something that worked for me on that level. For me, it was intermittent fasting. And once I realized that was working for me and I started losing weight just by intermittent fasting, I didn't even understand why it was working. I didn't understand calories in, calories out. I just saw the numbers on the scale going down. And so I just thought, hey, everybody needs to try this. And if everybody could do intermittent fasting, everybody would lose weight. The fact of the matter is that's not actually good advice because a lot of people will not lose weight whenever they do intermittent fasting. Why? Because they won't be able to stick to it. That worked for me, but that doesn't work for everybody. The reason it works for me is because I can work really well on a discipline reward kind of system. I discipline myself, go hungry for a little while, and then I reward myself with the satisfaction of what I eat. That's what intermittent fasting did for me. That's why it worked. That's why I could stick to it. So because adherence is so important to losing weight and keeping it off, I do wish I had learned about intermittent fasting earlier, because then I would have lost weight years before. Because throughout my 20s, I was steadily gaining weight as I was trying and desiring to lose it, because I was doing diets that I could not stick to. Had I known about fasting before that, I would have lost weight years earlier, but hey, better late than never, right? Another thing I did right is I added exercise into this. I would recommend anybody watching this, if you're not regularly exercising, start regularly exercising. Whether you want to lose weight or not, add exercise. But if you do want to lose weight, add exercise. So if you understand the calories in versus calories out, exercise is calories out. So that increases the calorie deficit you're in, or it gives you a little bit more wiggle room with what you eat. And so it's really important for that respect, but also because if you're losing weight, you are going to lose muscle. But if you are regularly resistance training, you will minimize how much muscle you are burning in the process, because you're essentially telling your body that I still need this, hold on to this as you are resistance training, right? But also I recommend cardio, because cardio burns calories. However that looks for me, I run a lot. For you, it might be biking, it might be using the elliptical, I don't care. I would recommend adding in cardio because it's healthy for your cardiovascular system, but it also increases your calories out, which can help you lose weight either faster or give you more wiggle room, as I said, with your diet. Another helpful thing is I didn't do it alone. Yeah, I didn't exactly have an accountability partner. I didn't have somebody going along with this with me. But what I did do is I sought out advice and information. I did a little research because I wanted to be able to calibrate what I was doing to make it more effective for my weight loss. So essentially, I didn't go in blindly. I was trying to be as informed as I could because I didn't want to make any unnecessary mistakes. However, whenever I say I sought out advice and information, it was not always from good sources. And I'll get into that in a minute, but that brings me to the things that I did wrong. And so going back to adding exercise into it, I didn't add exercise into it until years later. So what happened because of that is my weight loss wasn't as fast as I would have liked, or at least I didn't have as much wiggle room with my diet. So because I didn't add it until later, what happened is it took longer, it was harder because my calories in order to lose weight had to be lower, and I lost muscle in the process. I didn't realize it at first, but looking back on pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, look at my arms, they're bigger than they are now. And the dirty little secret that people don't tell you about fitness is that building muscle is actually the harder part than losing the weight, at least in my opinion, because it requires more discipline, it requires more consistency, it requires more hard work. It requires more intentionality. You can passively lose weight, you cannot passively gain muscle. So that's something I did wrong. If you are looking to lose weight, do your resistance training. That's weightlifting or whatever that looks like. Do your cardio for calories in versus calories out. And also do it because it's healthy. Exercise is universally beneficial for your body and your mind. Another thing I did wrong, and this was actually kind of a big one, is I majored on the minors. Whenever I was seeking out advice online, I was looking at people talk about, oh, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this little hack, oh, make sure you do this. All of it was just majoring on the minors, stuff that didn't ultimately matter that much, because whenever I'm losing weight, I am not looking to lose every single possible gram I can every single day. Whenever I'm doing my fitness and whenever I'm trying to gain muscle, I'm not trying to squeeze out every single gram of muscle building I possibly can. I'm not an elite athlete. I'm not in a competition of any kind of weight loss or weightlifting or anything like that. I'm not trying to be the absolute best I can at any of this. And so majoring on the minors just made no sense. Whenever it comes to weight loss, whenever it comes to fitness, there are things that you can do where it's just, if you stay within these parameters, you'll do well. Right? But it's like, if you want to be elite, then you can major on these things. Or in some cases, it's like you're majoring on a minor. It's like that doesn't actually even matter in the long term at all. People will fight me on this. They'll fight me on calories in versus calories out, but they'll also fight me on the fact that any diet you do, if you equate calories and protein, the fat loss, the weight loss in the long term will all even out. It'll all be the same. You can't hack your way into more weight loss or more fat loss off your body. And I say that because a lot of the advice I was getting was people trying to justify why their specific diet they were selling you on was better. But in the end, those benefits don't actually yield anything in the long term, according to randomized human control trials and different meta-analyses and stuff like that. So to give an example, one time I was at work, and at the time I was intermittent fasting and I was very rigid with it, and I broke my fast at 1 o'clock. and I ate until 9 o'clock, right? Somebody, out of the kindness of their heart, ordered a pizza for me that was delivered to my work, and it got there about 12:30, 12:40, something like that. I did not take a bite of that pizza until 1 o'clock because I was like, no, I need to maximize my fat burning in this fasting window before I eat, right? That's majoring on a minor. In the long term, that wouldn't make any difference. But even if it made the slightest difference, why am I worried about 20 minutes? Another thing is whenever I was intermittent fasting, I was worried about, do branched chain amino acids break your fast? What if I drink this 0-calorie drink? Is that breaking a fast? I went to people and I was like, I need an energy drink that doesn't have acesulfame potassium, flavoring it, or sucralose, because those, raise your insulin even though they're 0-calorie, and that technically breaks a fast. None of that matters. None of that matters in the long term at all. Don't major on those minors. And then whenever it came to protein, I was so paranoid about when the best time to take protein is. Do I need to take protein right after a workout to maximize muscle protein synthesis? Oh no, it's actually a few hours after your workout to maximize muscle protein synthesis. Oh no, the best thing you can do is work out and then fast for 24 hours whenever your muscle protein synthesis is at its peak, and then you have protein. Like, I was so worried about that. None of that matters. And if it does matter, it is minuscule, absolutely minuscule. Because whenever it comes to protein intake, whenever it comes to muscle building, what is most important by far is just having the right amount of daily intake of the protein. So let's use the example of the conventional wisdom is somewhere around, like, don't at me on this, but somewhere around 0.8 grams per pound of body fat is the amount of protein you should be taking in order to maximize muscle protein synthesis and for the sake of muscle building. So let's say for you, that's 150 grams a day. Getting that 150 grams a day is more important than any other aspect of protein intake. Then what comes after that, you can worry about timing, like protein timing. What is the best way to time my protein? But we're talking about maximizing effects. We're not talking about having any effect. It's like if you don't maximize the effect, it's not like you're going to lose muscle because you didn't time your protein correctly. You're getting the right amount of protein. That's what matters the most. The timing matters less, but that would still be next on the hierarchy. And then after that, then you can worry about protein quality. But then that's another thing where it's like now you're really maxing it out. You're really trying to push for everything you can. And then after that, you can worry about protein timing as well. And so what you're doing is don't major on the minors. Get the protein in. Don't worry about the source of protein as much as you are just getting it. Don't worry about the spacing out of the protein as much as just getting it or the timing of the protein. Get the protein first, and that'll take you. There are people who build muscle on one meal a day. That's like against the conventional wisdom of the best protein timing. That is like the worst, to get it all in one meal. But people are still building muscle on that. Right? Yeah, maybe it won't maximize the effectiveness, but at least it'll still work for them, right? And so whenever it comes to diet and fitness, it's like you don't want to major on the minors to put all these unnecessary rules on yourself to make it more difficult. The fact is that as long as you are getting the adequate protein, you have freedom in order to how best suits you and your preferences and your adherence to getting that in. And the other thing is, I listened to a lot of unhelpful sources. Now, what I tell people is that if somebody is trying to sell you a fitness hack or a diet hack or a workout hack or anything that's some sort of hack, the real hack is the person trying to sell it to you. There is no hack that bypasses discipline and hard work. Even if you use steroids, you still have to adhere to strict discipline and hard work to maximize that effectiveness. It gives an advantage, but it's not a hack. And so I'll put these channels in my description, but just to give you some resources on people I recommend, Theology Geek Fitness with Jonathan Pritchett. Go subscribe to Theology Geek Fitness. Another person I really like, and I've watched him for a few years now, is Lane Norton. His channel might be called Bio Lane. What he does is really good with cutting through different BS of fitness and diet stuff that you might hear from influencers, but he also goes over studies every now and then to kind of analyze them and see what we can learn from him. I find that really effective. I also really like Coach Greg Doucette. He cuts through a lot of BS as well. He's funny, so he's entertaining to watch, but he knows his stuff pretty well too. After that, Renaissance Periodization, another PhD guy who is going to go over this, debunking different things, giving really helpful recommendations, stuff like that. I've come to trust him. Then you have Athlean X and Gravity Transformation. They can be a little hit and miss, but they're mostly hits. So I think that overall they'd be a benefit to you. Then Sean Nalawani. I don't even want to try to spell that. So it's just Sean, S-E-A-N, Nal, and you'd be able to find him with that, N-A-L. And then Mario Tomic. Mario Tomic gives really helpful advice for beginners, and he knows his stuff, and he's been ahead of the BS for years that I've seen. So I also recommend him. Another thing I did wrong is I did not set goals. I was flying by the seat of my pants, right? Jonathan Pritchett, whenever he lost his 75 pounds in 6 months, it's because his goal was to lose 75 pounds in 6 months. He mapped it out. How am I going to do that? And he did it, right? Me was, I want to lose weight. It's like, well, no wonder it took me 4 years. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a goal. And you don't even have to have like this big, massive goal and just, float through it and hope you make it. It's like, no, set little goals in between to try to get to where you're going, right? So it's like now my overall goal is to build muscle, right? But I can compartmentalize that into little individual goals. Work out 3 times a week. There you go. That helps a lot. Sometimes every few months I might say I need 2 weeks or a solid month of just aggressive cutting, right? To get to this weight, but it's going towards an overall goal, but it's broken up into individual goals. I recommend setting goals for you to strive toward. You can read this in any success principle book, that whenever you set a goal, even if you fall short, at least you made improvement towards it, right? And it's better than just aimlessly just trying to throw darts and hope that you hit a target somewhere. This one's a small thing and it might come down to preference, but honestly, I think one mistake I made is I didn't weigh my food. Because once again, calories in, calories out. Weighing your food, you start to realize what serving sizes look like, right? So if you're going to eyeball it, you better know how much calories you're in, being able to see it, right? Just put it on a scale. Do that for like a week. Do it for like a week or two. Weigh out your food. That way you can really see what these proportion sizes look like. I highly recommend it. I got a food scale and that was like eye-opening to me. Some things I thought I was consuming so many calories, but it wasn't nearly as much as I thought. Some things I was like, oh, this isn't that much. And it's like, wow, that's a lot more calories than I realized. It also helps with tracking your food, right? It's like, what if I do want to hit 150 grams of protein today? Well, guess what? Whenever I throw tilapia on there or chicken breast, I don't know how much it weighs, so I don't know how much protein I'm getting there. So how am I going to have a good idea of if I'm even close to that goal? Now, I'm not rigid about it, but let's say like, oh, today I got 148. Yeah, that's good. Oh, maybe I got 156. Yeah, that's good. But what if there is far less or far more protein in there? You see how that works? So if you're going to be eyeballing this stuff whenever it comes to calories or macronutrients, whenever you're reading nutrition labels, I highly recommend a food scale. I didn't get one until this past year, and it has been mind-boggling how much stuff that I have not been correctly analyzing. And the last thing I think I did wrong, and once again, this still might come down to preference, but this is my advice at this point after, losing the weight over 4 years and maintaining weight since then, is that I took the slow burn approach. I was willing to just slowly lose weight over time. And you know what? If that's you, do it. Right? But what I tell people is, remember, calories in, calories out. The primary thing for you dieting is you have to find a diet that puts you in a calorie deficit. After that, what needs to be decided is a diet that accomplishes that, but that you can actually adhere to in the long term consistently, right? But if I were to add a third piece of advice, it would be go as hard as you can with it, where it doesn't negatively impact your health and that you can still adhere to it, right? Maybe just the very basic adherence is all you can handle. That's fine. Then do that, right? But if it's like, oh, I'm doing this diet and I can adhere to it pretty well, go hard. Like fight, make it hard as you can that you can still adhere to it, right? Because whenever it comes to weight loss, get it done and over with. It taking me 4 years to finally lose the weight, that's 4 years of me telling myself, do not exceed 2,000 calories today, right? And 2,000 calories is not that much. And yeah, because of fasting, sometimes it's like I would do 1,000 today, 3,000 that day. Yeah, but the point is I was still thinking in those terms for 4 years, just always worrying about what I'm eating. And it's like, Jonathan Pritchett did it right. 6 months, and it's like you just get it done. You're there. Now you have freedom to eat a little bit more because maintenance is going to be higher than weight loss calories, right? But also because you made it, you hit your goal. And so you don't have to diet. You don't have to be miserable. You don't have to worry about this stuff. It doesn't have to be hard anymore. Or as hard, I should say. So if you want my advice that I did not do because it took me 4 years, don't do the slow burn unless you have to in order to adhere. If you have to do a slow burn to adhere, do it. But as far as I'm concerned, make it hard. Fight for it. Get it done and over with. Go hard. Once again, as long as it doesn't negatively impact your health, right? So that's all I got to say today. I hope this was helpful. I hope that somebody was able to see this and also be motivated to continue their epic their saga, their crusade of weight loss, if you will. So learn from my mistakes, learn from my successes, take advice from the men that I have listed in the description if you're able to look through their videos. And I wish you all the best. Have a good day.